I have a freedom that I've never had before. I have liberation that I've never had before. I feel like if this can happen to me, there's nothing a human in this world can really do to me to feel that hurt that I felt. Like I feel like that's the worst hurt I could ever
Mhm,
feel. And
mhm,
now I know everything really is above that to me now. It's
mhm.
above me. And I'm just going to be in the bliss and the joy that I have and try to help people heal along the way as
Yeah.
I've done.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you are in. My name is Angela Brown. My business is Doula Loves Creation, as well as Birthing and Alignment. And today I'm going to be doing a sharing and interview with an extraordinary woman, my client, Bri Smocks. And the purpose of this sharing today and this interview is to support and to give healing, even allowing moms who have had babies who were born still, babies who were born without breath, or babies who were born and then transitioned after being born into this earth dimension. So Bri and I wanted to do this interview. We knew it was going to be the right time whenever our energies aligned,
Right.
as well as with the spirit of her child.
Yes.
And we're just going to just open it up and just allow Bri to flow. I may ask questions in between, but we really want to provide a source of healing and comfort for all parents who have experienced stillborn.
Mhm.
Let me tell you a little bit about Bri first. Bri is a woman of great spirit, great faith. She is a woman of God. She is a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, an educator, a speaker, an actor. She is phenomenal in the way she lives her life from a consciousness of grace. And I know that it is no accident
Mm.
that she and I found each other in
Yes.
2001. Um, and now I will open it up and we will start with why don't you tell me a little bit about, first of all, if there's anything you want to say, and then
Yeah.
I'll start off with a question. Okay.
Well, first of all, Miss Angela Brown, we met in 2021. The spirit is here. It's already here. Let's just say that. And it feels like we've been knowing each other forever. Okay. Um, I am here in California, Long Beach, with my husband and son, and our families are in Texas and Missouri. So to have her be a part of the birthing process for our son, Ari, it was exactly what I needed at that time in my life. I found so much alignment and I've become so much more in tune with myself as the divine and with the ancestors through Miss Angela Brown. So I'm just going to start there and give her all her flowers.
Thank you.
And I'll just start by saying that I did everything right this pregnancy. So I like to say. I felt as though I took care of my health and I was conscious of my boundaries and space. I was very in tune with hypno babies and just being at peace. There was nothing that could bother me, even through the normal pregnancy symptoms that I was experiencing, nausea especially. I still somehow just felt like I could smooth smooth coast myself right through the pregnancy because of all the techniques that I was learning through Miss Angela Brown. And to have the experience we had starting the night of November 2nd, but culminating in November 3rd, 2021, with the loss of our son, Ari. Miss Angela has just been a godsend from every step of the process. And the amount of calm that I had and the peace that I had from the moment we no longer heard the heartbeat, I just can't even, it wasn't even us. It wasn't even flesh. That was just divine, pure divine. So we can go into more details, but that's generally how I remember the night. I remember it as a night of honesty, beauty, transparency. It was the most raw, deep, hurt that I could have experienced, but I couldn't fathom any of that yet. So that night for me is literally love, perfection, beauty. And Miss Angela will tell you, she remembers some of the things I've said, but that's just what I felt in the moment. It's as if I wasn't even myself. It's like I was just fully out of body,
Yes.
being carried into a space of comfort and knowing. And I still feel Ari's energy. I've never been so in tune with energy and waves and vibrations and all of that until this experience of having a doula, of being in alignment, truly in alignment. Did not know what that really meant until I had to go through it. So I just, there's so much about this journey that is still in development. And our foundation that we're building in his honor is one of the driving forces of my life now. And it's why I live the way I live and why I'm so unapologetic about being myself. Because what I realized from that whole experience is if the worst can happen and I can survive, then so can the good. And I can definitely thrive in the good. So that's where I am with it.
You said about the foundation, but so let the audience know what the name of the foundation is.
The name is Arri Kenzo Foundation, named after Bri Smocks. His name would have been Arri Kenzo Smocks. And we chose that name because it means wise. It means best of thinkers. It has a full Japanese culture heritage that we're really in love with. It just felt like the perfect name. And so we still feel like it's the perfect name for all the work we're going to do to support grieving families, to support a bunch of different projects that will be about liberation and healing for communities in a lot of aspects.
Thank you, Bri. So I want to acknowledge, so for those moms or dads who are on this, who are watching this video, I know that grief is experienced in many different ways, but Bri's going to share her experience so that for those who may be in the trenches of their grief, that you know that there's another way. Where you are in your grieving process is the place that you need to be.
Absolutely.
This is not about judgment. This is not about you wishing you could be someplace else. This is about, okay, where I am right now.
Is your...
So as I was saying, couples who are experiencing this grief, just know that where you are is the place for you. I pray that you've received deep comfort and healing from hearing Bri's story. And Arri is Bri's second child. Her first son is Levi.
Yes.
And so we want to talk a little bit about when Bri met me. So we just determined what that date is. So Bri met me April 30th.
April 30th, 2021, the same day as my husband's graduation from college, in his bachelor's degree.
Wow. Yes. And then her actual birth of Arri was November 3rd. November 3rd.
Correct.
So we had all those months. So what I'll share with you all is this. One of the things that I do, I teach hypnobabies hypnosis for childbirth. That's one of the ways that I teach. And I also teach through, of course, meditation, spirituality, prayer work.
Yeah.
It just depends on where each woman's consciousness is. But Bri did the hypnobabies course. And I also do pregnancy life coaching sessions. So Bri and I would meet once a month. Yeah. And the idea is to help women be in this place of balance. Instead of being up and down, they can be here. And Bri was committed. Talk to us about, Bri, the days leading up to the birth, like the day before. Like I know, like you, one of the questions I want to ask you, when was your final midwifery check? Bri had a birth in a birth center. That's where she was starting.
Yes. So, November 1st, we had our appointment with the midwifery practice. They checked all of my vitals. Everything was great. We'd even had a plan because at that time I was going into 41 weeks. So we'd had a plan to induce if it was past, I think the week after, around November 12th or something of that nature. So we already had everything ready to go. Heartbeat was great. There was no cause for concern, no cause for concern. I felt the normal rumblings as you do. I started feeling waves. That's when we started contacting Miss Angela Brown, letting her know. And mainly my husband was the main form of communication. So we're getting into November 2nd. And that morning I woke up and I just kind of felt off. And I remember kind of scaring my husband. I remember he was fearful that morning. And I don't recall anything I did that looked like I would make him worry, but maybe the energy, again, something he felt, because we are also very close. He called Miss Angela, I'll never forget, November 2nd. And they were having a conversation and she was just letting him know, because she does awesome work with the husbands and fathers and partners. Okay, amazing work with him. But yeah, they were on the phone conversing and I had no idea. They were having their own conversation, their own bond and experience. And I remember him coming back to me and having a conversation. Miss Angela called me just to check in. And that's when I finally broke down and told her that actually throughout the pregnancy, I'd been really holding on to the technique so much because I was having more symptoms than usual. But I was not wanting to compare my first pregnancy to this one because it's beautiful and it's its own experience. And that's one of the things that I was learning and really, really holding on to. And so I just told her, I just felt like there was just a lot going on and I wasn't feeling myself. And so we had a very calming conversation. We got off the phone and I just felt like, okay, it is what it is. And then the birthing wave started that night.
So when you were saying you were having sensations, one of the things she was experiencing was hyperemesis. So she would get nauseous quite a bit throughout this pregnancy and have to throw up. So that's something that she experienced more in this pregnancy than you did with the first, correct?
I was not having any symptoms really at all with Levi. So all of these symptoms were just throwing me for a loop, and to have nausea and to be vomiting like at least once a month throughout the entire pregnancy. It stayed throughout, and just having to find my own courage with a lot of mental health issues with my family and things that I was learning and discovering. All of that was happening at the same time. It was a lot going on, a lot.
All right. So now it's November 2nd. You're actually in your active birthing time.
Yes.
And I was trying to remember, like, you called me, said, well, we're going to head to the birth center or something like that. So
it was very strong. They were coming on strong, and it just felt like this is time. And I just remember telling my husband, like, I feel like maybe there shouldn't be that much blood as everything was happening. I just remember telling him that, but I wasn't panicked or worried. There was nothing in my mind with alarms going off. It was just alarms as in like, I just need to get to the birthing center. That's just
so
where
was it blood or was it mucousy blood?
it felt like both, but I think I was so in tune. I had on the headphones from like 8 p.m. that night. I was so in tune with myself that like my surroundings even felt blurry. And so I was just asking my husband questions because I literally told myself, let everything go. Just allow your partner to guide. He's had training, he's had his own work that he's done, so
Right.
I can fall back and just focus on my peace. That's it, solely my peace. So I really don't recall, but I do remember I felt like it was more than it should have been, and it was little droplets, but it still felt like it just wasn't right. Like my body was just kind of telling me. And I think maybe now that I'm thinking back on it, just preparing to be in that fully deep peace state of mind. That's what it feels like now.
So I want to address what she's speaking about, because I always tell moms, if there's anything you're questioning or have doubt about, if you're concerned, always check with your provider. Now, she's actually in her birthing time now, so she's heading to the birthplace
Yes.
as these concerns are coming up. So I just want everyone to know that if you're feeling things that you're concerned about or something intuitively, you can't even quite explain it. It could be, you could be 5 months, you could be 6 months or whatever. If you're ever questioning that, say, you know what, I'm still a little restless. Maybe I need to, get checked out.
Because the instruction said I, could have waited longer, but I, in my mind, immediately was like, all right, we need to go now. But I wasn't panicked and saying, I just knew. And so I just moved with what my body was telling me.
I'm looking at the time. So I guess got to the birth center around 12 a.m.
Yes.
is what I'm looking at. All right.
Yes.
So tell me, so let me interject this part here. So as we get there, she keeps having birth waves maybe every 2 to 3 minutes. And so the midwife was trying to check her and she goes, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. So we get her on the bed, we take her off the bed, we put her on the bathroom. Every time the midwife tries to do the Doppler on her to check the heart rate and everything, she'd have another birth wave. She goes, oh, I need to sit up. So we kept sitting her up and waiting for her to get, and that was probably within like a few minutes or something like that. It wasn't that much, but it felt like every time we wanted to, she wanted to examine her or anything, that's what was happening. So at some point I remember, do you remember this? Where you finally you lay back on the bed. Bri had thrown her arms open. And I don't know if you were finishing up a birth wave and you remember what you did?
Keep going, because it's like it's coming back to me. Wait.
She smiled. She was like laying there and she was like, she had the smile on her face with her arms open.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes. And so at that point, the midwife could take the Doppler. The water was running for the tub because we were ready to get her in the tub. And so the midwife said, oh, you know what? Get me another Doppler. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you need another Doppler for? Now, this midwife, I have worked with her many times, love her.
And we love her too.
She's thorough. And so she's doing the Doppler.
And she did the test before, mind you, the day before. She was with us the day before.
Yeah, so this was the same midwife that checked baby's heart tones, your heart rate, blah, 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 blah. Then she does that, and then she takes it again. She takes another Doppler, and she goes, get me another one, and she asks for that. So then she's still not hearing anything. And so she said, bring the ultrasound machine.
Yes, I remember that coming in.
And now, do you remember how we looked at each other? Do you remember?
I think we just locked eyes. I just felt like we knew.
We knew.
It just was like we knew. Like, and my mind said, go to war place. Like, wherever you got to go for this, go.
So I turned to Bri. Her husband, Art, I don't think he knew what we knew at that moment. Because Bri and I, when I tell you, audience, we locked eyes. And there was no words, nothing. Even though I'm looking at this ultrasound, I'm still having out of body, like, I know I'm supposed to see the blip. And I'm not seeing it, but part of me's not registering it. But the other part of me, that spirit part of me, knew exactly what was happening. Even though I'm like, I'm waiting to see the blip, the heartbeat. And so,
yes.
But I think because Bri and I had that 20 seconds or whatever that was, something, and I call it spirit, the Holy Spirit falling over me. Now, this is not my first stillbirth. And I know the feeling, what happens inside of me. And I also want to say this. I had 3 births that month. But I had a sense that someone was going to be a transfer. But I had 2 other moms, and there was one mom I thought, okay, there's going to be a transfer. Spirit had been telling me there's going to be a transfer. And I'm like, well, so Bri was not even in my consciousness for transfer. Nowhere, no how, all her stuff. But I had a woman who was 45 having her 3rd. And I knew that, that could be possibly it or the one before. So Bri, when you realized, when we locked eyes, when you knew, can you describe what went through you in that moment?
I think I said in my heart, okay, wait. Okay. Because in my moment of grief, because the joy was so there, I think I just thought, oh, okay. I think I had no words. And then once we started moving and going to the hospital and I saw Art's hope, when I saw his hope still going, right? Then my mind started flipping on like, oh man, my family, all the people who are waiting and expecting, and like, then all the things come in. But I'm literally just thinking that like, they're going to be so disappointed. Not even me. I wasn't even thinking of me. It was everybody else and their feelings and their emotions. And I remember thinking, oh, Miss Angela, she wasn't like I can see in your face, like, whoa, like, okay, we gotta really, And I said, I'm so glad she's here. Like, I just kept thinking, I'm so glad she's here because I knew I knew where my husband was.
Mhm.
And I was like, and I'm really glad I have her that can like understand here with me without me talking. So I don't
Yeah.
have to say anything to anyone. And I'm still listening to the tracks. I'm listening to the Hypno Babies and all those, and it's just washing over me to keep me calm. And I just remember just feeling like I was floating, like.
And I want to say, so we get to Long Beach Memorial because she said you can either call 911 or you guys can drive. Well, me and Art were out the door. We were like, because it was going to take the ambulance 5 minutes to get there and 5 minutes to get back. So we decided, well, we can get to the hospital in 5 minutes because it literally was around.
We're 5 minutes. And I will say we had already paid our midwifery bill for that birthing center. Everything was already paid for. So we are not expecting any other expenses. We're not expecting to have to go into a hospital and have to like relive just all the charges that come with that experience. It just was not something we were expecting.
So they get to the guard station and I'm wondering what's going on. I finally park all illegally. All of us were illegal. And
Right.
I run in and I'm like, well, where is she? And Art says, they won't let me go up with her. And I'm just like, don't you understand what's happening? My mama bear came out, which I was like, what? And I thought, okay, Angela, calm your energy. And so I'm looking at him because he is really getting animated. So I take my hand and I take it from his here and I take him down. I'm coming down, bringing Art back into his body. I remember just rubbing his chest, rubbing his heart, bringing him back down. But I said, look, you need to get upstairs with her now. You need to let him up in. And the woman said, you're going to make me lose my job. I said, you're not going to lose your job. I said, she doesn't need to be up there by herself without her man. So he took off up there. He didn't even have a band on, y'all. I just kind of went there. And they did what I said. Nobody stopped me. And that was probably the first part of me like, look, we're going to get what we need. You're not keeping him away from her. I don't want her up there by herself. I don't think the guard really understood.
Yeah, no,
I said, we suspect stillbirth. And so she did not get it. But anyway, they said, the doula can come up, we're going to send the dad down. So they sent me up. I had my papers and everything. And then they sent him down. And then I went in, and so then he came up to the room. So that's how all that, but it was a moment of chaos, everyone. I just want to say to you, but I was remembering to stay centered, even though I was really coming off like Mama Bear, don't F around right now.
Yeah, let me add to that. When we came in a little bit before you, and I remember Art was explaining to them this, but I think it was just so like it wasn't clicking because I was still so calm. Like I didn't look like anything tragic had just happened.
It was just like this.
So they were just like, what do you mean? Like it just was not registering that tragedy could look like that.
So this is the shock. And this is what I feel is one of God's greatest gifts to us human beings.
Absolutely.
Shock is a wonderful thing because it allows you to take whatever tragic situation you can take. Oh, I'm taking it only in a grain of sand. I'm just taking in a grain of sand right now. That's all I can take. And then another grain and another grain. And I knew, I was very much aware that I was in a simultaneous awareness of that. And she was too. I knew that Bri was in shock, but we were still functioning through it.
And we called it out. Like we talked about these processes and these feelings and emotions, like in real time, right there as it was happening. And that was useful for me.
So we get to the room and we're waiting. Bri's just sitting down on the bed, not saying one word. Art's not talking. I'm not talking. So tell me what happened when the doctor came in and they did the Doppler on you. No, he didn't do the Doppler. He did an actual ultrasound. He didn't even try to do the Doppler. He did a full ultrasound.
I just remember knowing, I knew. So I was just like, okay, we just need them to confirm this so we can move this along. That's what my mom was thinking. Like, nobody needs to try to maybe tell me or coddle me into the truth. What I already know is the truth that absolutely no one wants to hear. So once I registered that in my mind, the confirmation just said, okay. Like it just sealed the okay with a period. It was already there. I was writing the O, I was writing the K in my mind already. And that just kind of put the stamp on it.
She knew that I took pictures at birth. So she said, I want you to document everything. So at a birth, and I asked her, I said, do you still want me to document this birth? She said,
Yes.
I want you to document everything.
Yes.
So I proceeded to just continue to take photos. Some of them, they knew I took them. A lot of them, they didn't know I took them. And I just continued to document the journey. So then Bri was going for a natural birth, a non-medicated vaginal birth.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, well, I knew that I was going to suggest an epidural to you. So I don't know if you came to that realization before we even said anything to you.
I think you suggesting it to me made me click and go, oh, we can switch course here.
Yes, yes.
Like my mind automatically went like, all right, fine. Like
Yeah.
I am okay with whatever is going to be the most comforting for this moment that is really what comfort can you find? So I'm gonna find
Right.
it where I can.
Right. Oh, I remember. So then you ended up getting the epidural, and then the midwife asked if she could, if you want me to stay, or do you feel like you're okay with Angela? And then you had agreed to just, we're okay with Angela being here, because
Yeah.
what people don't know,
Yeah.
especially in hospital settings, when I show up on the scene, I've already been working with the client 6 months, some way longer than the doctors, and I'm much more intimate with my clients.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I'm knowing a relationship, and so I remember the midwife saying, Angela, do you think she's digesting this? She said, but she has no emotion. I said, oh, she gets it. I knew you. I said, she gets it. She fully gets it. Your husband floated in and out a bit more than we did. We were all in the bathroom together. Y'all, birth is very intimate. She's sitting on the toilet.
Yeah, but I know we laughed about it so hard because it was something that you can really only say in grief. I don't remember what I said.
What? So she's sitting on the toilet. She's got, the
Things going on
coming out. And Art's standing there and he's like, babe, something like this. I know God said he doesn't give us anything that we can't handle, but really? Really, do we need this? Why do we, and he went there and we just, all I could do is just listen to him. I don't even think, you may have made a comment, I don't know. Oh, it was something like, now you guys, if this sounds like it's just what we're just talking about, this is just how it is. We were literally having conversations because you just do. And she said, well, baby, we always said he was going to be,
we said it was going to be calm and chill.
But you said you said he was coming to change the world.
Yes.
You said Arri Kenzo was coming to change the world. And we knew he was going to be a bigger than life force.
We knew that, yes. Yes. And he was 7 pounds, 11 ounces. 7 pounds, 11 ounces. So yes, definitely.
Yes. And her husband's just standing there, and eventually we go back to the bed. She gets the epidural, gets comfortable, and then I sit over in the corner. Now, this is what I really want to say about this experience. And when you build spiritual muscle so that you handle life's adversities at a level of grace that you don't even know is possible. I'm over in the corner and I hear her say, you remember what you said?
Is Arri born yet? Because I remember what I said to him. No. Okay, well then I don't remember that.
So this is part of the fog part of where she is. And Bri says to her husband, now baby, this is for us. Oh, we can do this. This is for us. We have more than enough to get through this. And he was like, ah. And he said, baby, I'm gonna need some time. And she's like, I know. Now, did you remember that conversation until now?
I remembered the part of me saying this is for us because I just remember that was constantly going through my brain. The rest of that is foggy, but I do remember that line.
But like by me bringing it up today, had you thought about that conversation prior since November 3rd, 2021?
No, I hadn't.
Yeah, see, that's the fog. So I just remember being this, I felt like I was this recorder of everything detailed. And I thought, my God, look what she just said to him. And so then at some point he got up out of the chair and got into bed with her. The most beautiful moment of watching this couple, this man hold on to his woman. And she let him. He spooned her.
Yes.
There were no tears. It was shock. Because the other part, we could have been wailing, literally wailing, but that didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, you remember you got out of the bed. Now, when you were lying in the bed with him, do you remember that? Do you remember what you were thinking? Or you were just in the moment?
I believe I was more in the moment. I tried to keep my mind blank. I practiced a lot of mindfulness and education and all that. That came back to me. The techniques I use as a teacher for my students with trauma and all that. I started going back to the things that I know, the academic parts. And I was just staying clear up here.
Yes. And then, so we're waiting. So by the time she got the epidural, it might have been about, I don't know, 2 or something. I'm not sure, everyone. And then that's when we were resting down and she was resting down. And then Art had gotten up out of the bed at that point. But I remember sitting on the stool and her husband came up. He was wrapped up in a blanket looking like Jesus. And so he said, Angela, let me give you a hug. So he gave me a hug. He said, I'm gonna hug you the way you've been hugging us all night.
I know, that's that moment right there.
And he just wrapped me in his blanket. So he wrapped me so much in the blanket, y'all, that I think I had, and Bri was trying to take a picture.
Like, I need to capture this moment. I got to capture this moment.
She took a picture of her husband wrapping me in this blanket, and he just wanted to hold me the way he felt I had been holding them all night. And it was just the most beautiful hug and beautiful moment. Now, what we were aware is that we couldn't have him take pictures of her or me. I was very much aware that I could not give her husband the camera, take pictures of anything. So then it was time to push the baby out. And I want to comment about the doctor. The doctor was, because here we come in off the street. We are not even registered at Long Beach. She's not registered at Long Beach. He was the most kind, gentle doctor. Didn't you think so, Bri?
I did. I really did. And he was really like listening, and he wanted to like make sure he had everything right. And he gave me my space. I didn't feel like I was being bombarded with a lot of questions. And the nurse was awesome.
Yes, she was. Can't remember her name right now. She was phenomenal. Long Beach Memorial. We can't even remember her name. And I'll say this about the doctor. And I was thinking to myself, poor thing. He was probably on call, and all of a sudden,
not what he expected tonight. We knew that for sure, but such grace, such class from everybody.
So then it was time to push the baby out.
I feel like I got my power back.
When you started pushing?
Yes, because the way you and I were coordinating and how you would just bring me back and how I would just go, it just felt like I still got the birthing experience adjacent to what I had hoped that I would get at the birthing center. So I still felt like I had that support, that just all the loving things. And by that time, we had really gotten to become close with the nurse, and that just a little bit of time. So having y'all around, it was, yes, it made that a lot less agonizing.
I'm gonna check. Hold on a second. I want to see. Okay, so yeah, we got there around 12-ish, and then the baby was born around 5:30 something. So that's to give you, so we had all that time to be with each other and I don't think we slept, or we may, that part's a blur, yeah. So, but you felt power, because you could feel some of the birth waves, because the epidural was wearing off a bit, yeah.
I remember you'd be like, I'm ready now, like, I was like, I'm ready. Like, I felt, and she was like, well, you got to wait a second. And so just having to, because that was just not anywhere near what I thought. So I had to just get back in that space. And I'm really glad I had hypno babies all the way up prior to that for the calming aspect and for just being stable in myself. Yeah.
I totally wasn't even thinking about the hypno babies, to tell you the truth, at that point. I don't even remember.
I stopped listening to it after they gave me the epidural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it was it was still in my mind. The words and all the things are still in my mind. And then everything that we practiced up until that point, I'm thinking about all those images in my head.
So she wanted me taking pictures. She was pushing very powerfully. And then I remember them putting the receiving blanket over your chest. And I'd already gone over with you. So this was the important point because I understood what stillbirth was about. So I said, you have three choices.
Yeah.
When the baby comes out, the baby can come directly to you. The baby can go to your husband, or the baby can go to the nurse, from the doctor to the nurse and to the bassinet, and let her clean up the baby. And you chose option 3 for the baby to be cleaned up. So the process of pushing the baby out took a while, which was different from any stillbirth I had before. When you were doing the pushing, were you just focused on the pushing? What was going on? Were you aware that you were birthing a stillborn, or do you?
I was, because I remember, I don't know who said something, but it kept ringing in my ear like, you're not getting any help. Because when somebody was, it wasn't said that way, but it was like a normal birthing process. The baby would be wiggling out, helping to move along, but we didn't have that. And he was so big. So I just remember something like that. Like I was like, I just need to help. Like I really need to help.
Right. She needed to push because what was going on, there weren't the sutures they couldn't find on the baby's skull. So I don't want to go too much into that. But so what happens is if you don't have those, there isn't this, like when babies come out, the head kind of folds, the brain folds out. It doesn't come out like this. But with this particular birth, it was more of a full.
Mm-hmm. I thought that I need to help.
Yeah. And you were. And so what I loved that Art did at that time was he pulled the receiving blanket up. And I thought that was a really good thing to do. And so, because he didn't want you to see what was coming out. And I didn't take pictures of that, everyone. I was not doing that. I just, something told me don't take any more pictures. But we held up the receiving blanket so that you couldn't see the baby coming out. And then Art kind of turned away. And then the nurse took the baby. And so then I was so grateful for her. I said, listen, I want to give the baby to my client. I need to be over here after I was there when she was cleaning up, Arri. And then I just did like last rites, and I spoke to his spirit. I prayed over him before giving him to you. And that was an extraordinary moment. And then you guys were still in shock. Oh, and I want to go back. Because do you remember the point before I think he was born? Or he might have been, I can't remember now. And you said, Angela, I think I'm in shock. I feel what's going on. Because you said to me, you're like, I think I'm in shock. I said, yeah. I said, she's like, I know the tears are there, but I'm not crying. She wasn't.
Yeah, I remember that. That. Yeah. I don't remember what point it was, but I remember saying that because I acknowledged the shock factor. I knew the waves were going to come when I left. But at this moment, I just said, I want to have joy here. I just want to have joy here. And then I will deal with the ugly and all the rest when we leave.
So when I said, do you want to see a picture of him unclothed? And she did. And I thought that might be a little challenging, but she handled that well. And then when I gave you the baby, this is the part that struck me. Wow. When you said, as I was giving you your son, I see only beauty. I only see beauty. I only see love. So before I even turned, she was saying this to her out loud. I see only love. You're so beautiful, over and over. You remember what you were saying? It was.
No, but I just remember, really, I remember that feeling in my heart. As soon as you said it, the feeling is so there, and I feel him like he's right here. I literally feel that. That was a connection. That was a moment. I literally saw perfection.
That's what it was. You said, I see only perfection. I see only perfection. I see only perfection. And then as I gave her her son, she kept saying it.
I mean, I gave him a whole speech, a whole something, like a memorial to him or something.
Your brother's gonna miss you. He says hi, and he says he loves you, and he knows you love him too. And you're bringing me so much joy with our little time together. love you so much.
I feel like it was just growing.
Just like him, right?
We love you so much. We love you so much. We think about you all the time. November 3rd will always hold a special place in our heart. We said he had a purpose. A big one. A big one. I see perfection. Oh, look at you. Pure perfection. That's it. Because you're awesome. Thank you. And all this hair. You were not as tiny as I thought you were.
And they said a bean, it must have been a llama bean. Big old beans.
Arthur, I have spelled your name right.
I love you so much.
Your consciousness, your spiritual evolution of embracing that journey in the moment
Yeah.
and all the rawness.
Yeah.
And even now, as we talk about it, I mean, I've had feelings come up. Wow. And they let you talk about the rest of the day. Like you held
I
on.
could have him for as long as I wanted. And I held on to him the entire time. Yeah, I held him, but physically held him the entire time until I had to eat or something like that. I had him really the entire time, other than Art or did you? You had Arri, did you?
I held him because I gave him to you.
Right.
Art wasn't ready quite yet then.
Right. Okay. So I'm like mixing up who held who. Yeah. So.
And then how long did you have him with you that day? Because you birthed him around.
I just remember I left the next, whenever it was that I left the next. No.
You birthed around.
I left that night. I was able to leave that night.
Okay, so you birthed at 5 something in the morning, 5:30,
right.
whatever.
And I left around 7 something at night.
Wow, I don't think you told me that.
It's because they were able to let me go.
Oh, your vital, everything was, yeah.
And they did all the checks. And so the next doctor who was on call, the next person that night came in and was like, if everything is well, because we told them for my mental health, for my state of mind, for my sound, judgment and body, like I cannot be here another night. I need to be at home. Like I need to fully start my process now because he is leaving at this point and they're taking him. But yeah.
Oh, you kept him until that night before you left.
Wow. Right before I kissed him as I walked out to go home.
Wow, I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I want to say to God, anyone who's experienced this, please know that this is Bri's journey and there's nothing wrong with your journey.
Mm-mm.
And God forbid this happens to anyone, please allow, if there's a third person in the room, to document your journey. You may not look at the pictures for years. You may never look at them. But at some point, as a mother, as a father, you may want to just look at your journey.
Yeah.
It's the beauty in the face of your son or daughter.
Yeah.
So I would say that to all of you, to just honor your journey. When did the tears come? When did the flood?
As soon as we got home. As soon as I stepped foot in the house because everything on our registry was bought, everything was set up, ready. The bassinet was at the bed, broke down. Like I couldn't even eat my food. it was like the worst week of bawling and like me bawling out in the full wailing, like the wailing that I read about in the Bible, like
The wailing and the gnashing of the teeth. Yeah.
It was that, like, could not eat. I felt like I was losing weight faster. And then of course I had planned to breastfeed. And so having to let my milk down and express, all those parts are the rough, ugly, like just looking to see, do I need a therapist, really going back and forth with myself. I have friends, unfortunately, who this has happened to. So I reached out to those specific friends who literally experienced the exact same thing at the exact same time. And so their support, knowing I have somebody who understands that, really helped me through those moments. And that's when I didn't talk to anyone. We did post about it that day, but told people not to call us, not to text us. I didn't want any communication. My mother graciously took on people who did want to help, send their love notes, their cards, their encouragement, who wanted to help with all of that. We had to figure out what we were going to do with finances. There was a lot going on. So it was a very tumultuous time. The joy of the birth was all that we had in the joy aspect. And then I didn't find the joy again until around Christmas. So that was the only moment. And the rest of that was all the pain, ugly, all of it. And I say ugly in the beauty of it. I say ugly in that I want people to understand it was that deep where I didn't even recognize myself. Like bearing the skin all the way back, peeling it back to see myself, which I know is what has led to my liberation now, which is what then led to the foundation, because we thought about what we experienced and all the things that we would have liked to have in that moment from employers, whatever the case may be. So that's what we're creating now. Mm-hmm. So I'm now thinking the tragedy of that and the beauty of that has now led to the world changing movement that we saw he would always be a part of anyway. Wow. So it's, came back full circle. But yeah, those were the tough two moments. Like, I did not want to be bothered, like, at all. I wanted to be alone. I just wanted to be with my husband and my son. And then just having, of course, to explain that to Levi and him coming up to the hospital and all the books that we had to read to him, how we have to explain it. Yeah, that was the tumultuous time.
Wow. Not every soul is going to feel the need to be in flesh form as a human being. And when a baby chooses to leave, when a soul chooses to leave, you're like, chooses what? We can get into that at another time. It is for those who are left. They're coming. If a soul leaves like that, is stillborn or born without breath, or leaves shortly thereafter, or even if your child is 12, 13, whatever, adult, it is for the love that gets to be left and felt. How am I going to use my life? How has this life changed me? And what I have bore witness to Bri and Art doing in the last almost 6 months is taking the life of their child and using it for their growth and expansion, building a business,
Smocks Media Group,
channeling that energy, that pain, and that to a constructive way of being. It doesn't mean that the ache isn't there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that.
Right.
But if you can get the blessing and the love that the soul left and use I remember you saying, you thank you for living within me these 9.5 months. Mm-hmm. Thank you for choosing me, for growing inside my body. She was showing, and that she said that the morning that he passed, like, thank you for choosing my vessel to live in. Yeah. And I just thought that was that's consciousness. When you can, when your baby's being handed to you and you're like, I see only love, I see only perfection. And that's all she wanted to behold as she began to unwrap him and wanted to see his fingers and wanted to see all of them. Really present when she's unwrapping her. What's this? And you're looking at his feet, his toes, and all of it. I was amazed.
I didn't want to miss that memory. I knew this is the only moment I get. Yeah. I want him to have the joy and the spirit that I had with Levi at his birth.
Yeah.
Like I want that energy to still remain and be pure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, parents who are experiencing this. There's moments of memory of joy of being pregnant with your baby. And then you have another moment where it's like, oh my God. Like when I would call you and I would say, how are you feeling? Oh, not a good day today. Ain't a good day today. Here's the thing, as human beings, we don't want to feel no sadness. We don't want to feel no pain, no grief. Well, that's just the most unrealistic thing.
I don't know how we gonna make it if that's the case.
We gotta feel it. But most of us want to run through it, drink through it. Now remember, we're gonna do it the way we need to do it. And then at some point we gotta call ourselves to attention. Okay, I gotta keep functioning. Parents like, I want to die. Why did they leave me? That's an ache. I don't know that ache. But when we have these moments where we lose a loved one, their lives are showing us something, but we want to run from the pain and grief. And I learned through the passing of one of my grandmothers, the only way out of it is through.
And it looked like the light was at the way end of the tunnel. Like I was like, I don't know. But I think that the consciousness though was still all there, but I knew I had to get through all of that. This is the emotion. That's how I feel like it looked like. And I had to get like this to go through. And it took just me getting right down to it. And I think that's probably why it felt like it didn't take me as long. Because I have to remember my journey is not everyone's journey, that it is individual. It is what I am feeling, what God is saying to me, what my experience is. So I know the work that I've done to get here. Like I know just with myself that it had to get where it had to get. Right. And I'm happy about where I am.
That's right. And so for the mothers and fathers who are grieving, just know your journey is your journey. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel like, oh God, I don't feel like getting up. But if you can get support and get someone to support you and just get it out,
And we had a lot of that. That's what I'm grateful for. Our community, our village really showed up and showed out. I will forever love those who are around us because we didn't have to, they just went to moving. Like the day after, people finding out somebody had food at our doorstep. They didn't ask, they didn't say, they didn't, nothing. And they respected my request to not bombard me, but they still showed love and they still supported and they still gave just generously for those 2 months, that November, December, even a little bit into January. And we're grateful for that. And I think that is really what, and then our minister was there. I came to the hospital. That's who I mentioned. Our minister came to the hospital, held Arri, did the blessing and had a conversation, and his wife is a chaplain. So they were there. And I think that spiritual base, that foundational base, having those kinds of energies really being there is the real comfort. Like that's the real comfort in knowing that there are people around me with this same energy and vibration uplifting me when I can't uplift myself.
That is so key. And I was really struck by your friend, or I think it was your minister's wife.
Yeah.
Come by because I asked you one day, I said, so how is Levi doing?
They were watching. Yeah.
I said, is Levi raising himself? Because Levi's how old at the time?
He's still, Levi was 3 at the time, but Levi's birthday is November 9th. I didn't say that. Right. So it's just a couple days later that he turns 4. So we didn't even get to celebrate him turning 4 with, just the pump and circumstance that we normally would have made, because it was still tragedy in that week. It was a lot happening, but yeah, they took care of him.
But I remember asking you, I said, is Levi pretty? I said, Levi raising himself. You said pretty much, because her son is so intelligent. And so mom and daddy grieving on the sofa, crying and snotting and whatever. And Levi running around playing with toys and just being Levi, and y'all are just watching him. And so we chuckled about that. It's like, with Levi over there raising himself,
And then I think I sent you texts of the things that he would say kind of after, but we're still a family. And he would talk about how sad he was, but he would really try to remind us of the things he read in the books that they gave him at the hospital about grief and what happens and all of that. So it was really a joy and a light to have him here. to be able to remind us of what we have and what we, still can create from what we have. I mean, it was a moment to have him there.
You you said that you do something with your son every morning. What do you do with Levi every morning?
Every
Remember?
morning.
Because
I
you don't baby talk to your son at all and never have.
no,
But
no.
you have morning check-ins because you want to know about his dreams. Did you?
It's so natural for me that I don't see them as anything, like, yeah, we talk about
I
his
know
dreams.
when I bring it, you're like, what do I do every day? Because it's just like getting up and using the bathroom and brushing your teeth. You're like, what do I do? Angela, I'm just parenting.
We do. We actually asked him about his dream. He had a dream a couple of days ago. We asked him about them and sort of what's in them. And, he'll just tell us and talk to us about what he sees. And he was very, very close to Arri. So he would say certain things that just felt like a spiritual connection conversation. And he would say them so matter of fact, like it'd be exactly what I needed to hear at that time, as if it came right from their mouth. They were colluding together, because that's how they used to do in my belly. Like they would be telling each other secrets, it felt. That's how energetic it is.
I want to share, and I don't even remember when my breakdown happened. I have to really think. It was definitely at the end, because it didn't happen that day that I got there.
You had another birth too after that.
Did I?
You had to get to the next morning or something. Yes. I remember, because you were talking about how that was just like for you to go from us and then having to go.
Oh yes. It was but I think I had like a day. She went later that night. So after I got home, oh my God, I forgot about that. You remember that more than I did. Y'all, sometimes being a doula is so deep. And thank God, I think she was a fairly quick birth. Because I was so tired.
I remember, because you came over and told us about that when you visited us the week after. So my mind was a little clearer then. And I remember you talking about that.
Because I think my breakdown must have happened after that. Because I had to kind of keep moving. And then I just.
By the time you came over to us, you had already had it. And we were talking about the fact that we had all had our breakdowns since the last time we saw each other. Yes.
Gotta break down, man. You gotta let it out. And I had so many friends who hold me through births, and they were praying for you and just still holding you and loving you. So I pray that everyone who's looked and watched this entire video, bless you. But I hope that you, please don't think that we have not grieved and hollered and howled, And last year was the last year that I lost my sister, my spirit sister. So, anytime you have a passing, someone else transitioning, you feel it even more. It's like, oh.
Yeah. For sure. Oh, and Art had a passing that same week, the day before. Remember we told you that in his family?
Someone passed away or something?
Like the day before. And then we went into our birthing time, and then so a lot of loss surrounded a lot of us at that time.
Yeah. Well, God bless your journey. You have been an extraordinary example. And I really wanted to, we talked about doing this interview. I said, you got to do an interview. I said, because the healing and what you experienced during your birth, what other mothers, and how you will be able to help other women heal and other fathers heal, it's going to be extraordinary. And this is why we wanted to do this interview with everyone. So you guys can watch it a little bit at a time, but we really wanted you to know the story.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. People may be curious as to what happened. You don't have to share that now as to how he passed, or but I wanted to put the question out there in case people are curious. Well, what happened? What happened? So I'm letting everyone know she does not have to answer the question, even though I'm asking it. You can choose to divulge it, or you can just say, I don't choose to share.
No, I will, because this is a part of the mission. All that, they still have no conclusive answer. Even, most recently when they looked over the paperwork one more time, they just said no oxygen was getting through. So it wasn't the cord, because the cord was long. And even if it wasn't, you and I've already talked about that. That necessarily wouldn't be an indicator of anything going awry, but they literally cannot conclusively say, just that somehow, no oxygen was getting there. And it was like a blood clot in the cord.
Mhm.
And that's it. That's all they, yeah.
And the first, one of the first ones I had, inconclusive again. See, sometimes we just won't get the answer, everyone. We won't get why. We want the answer to that question so badly. Why them? Why not me? Blah, blah, blah. Those questions don't serve to help you elevate through the grief process.
That's why we let that go. And we would literally do that as a part of our grieving. Some of our steps, the hospital was fantastic with their grieving resources and all that they gave us in the packets. We did read through all those. We talked about them. We were always in constant communication about our emotions with each other. And if we were on different days, we weren't judging each other. It was grace. Wherever you are, where you are, my husband, wherever he was, wherever I was, we were not saying we needed to be at the same place at the same time with our grief. And a lot of that is what helped us. Definitely.
Yeah, giving each other the space to honor it and
talking about it and
yeah,
actually feeling it and being in it and not shying away from it. And we would actually go through a lot of our questions. What if it was this? What if it was that? And we would literally answer the question and be like, nope, because we did that. Nope, because we did that. Nope. So that way we knew in our minds there was nothing that we could have, because if there was something I could have done, I would have done it. I'm that kind of mother, like I would have done it. I would just say that I'm thankful I was not too afraid to go through it like I thought I would be. I think we always think about the worst thing that could happen, like, oh, I don't know how I would do that, or I don't know what I would do in that situation. And you never think it's going to be you. I'm young, I'm spry, I have no health issues, complications. And I think it really helped me to get out of all of my preconceived notions about life in the world, because change is constant. There's so many things that are going to be out of my control. And so I focus on what is in it. And all of that is really just the love and the grace and the mercy that I showed myself. Because I don't even think of control that way anymore. I think of just being in control of who I am, like knowing who I am, whose I am.
Yes.
And nothing that happens to me tragically, like the way I see it now, will ever change who I am if I'm, knowing how I need to move through it. So not being afraid of that emotion, that was the biggest thing for me, like letting myself go to the worst place, regardless of how it looks to others, because I was a people person to think about, even in the process, everybody else's feelings, right? And I stopped doing that. Arri gave me the freedom to stop doing it.
Yeah, what gift, that's a good point. What gift, moms and dads out there, what gift did your child who left suddenly give you? What did they leave you with?
Yeah, I have a freedom that I've never had before. I have liberation that I've never had before. I feel like if this can happen to me, there's nothing a human in this world can really do to me to feel that hurt that I felt. Like, I feel like that's the worst hurt I could ever feel. And now I know everything really is above that to me now. It's above me. And I'm just going to be in the bliss and the joy that I have and try to help people heal along the way as I've done. I'm still healing. I want to say I'm healed. There's no thing as a, it's one and done ED on it. It's an ING constant process. So I got to be open to all that comes when life comes, the joy, the good, the ugly, the bad, all of it.
That's right.
As a place.
That's right. All right, everyone. We want you to just be about your healing, not the healed. I'm healed. I've done the work. It's an ongoing process. I pray that some of you found comfort in Bri's words and our story, the story she shared with her son, Arri Kenzo, and the light that he has brought to the entire family, the light he has brought to me.